December 17th, 2024 at 5:30 PM. Let's all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can we hit all our speakers? Sure.
There's nobody there.
Okay, let's do roll call. Scott Cole.
Here.
Karen Braswell. Amber McCune. Here. JC Stone. Gabriel Campos.
Here.
Ann Carver. Here. Melinda Patrick. I am here and we have a quorum. Okay. Heather,
Yes.
are you gonna do the consent agenda?
Oh, sure. Sorry. For consent agenda, you want me to go ahead and pull?
Yeah.
3 and 7. So we're pulling 3 and 7. Number 1, let me just walk you through all of them that are left. Well, number 1's the minutes.
So-
I know, I can't remember. Do you just do
So
the
what-
COAs or did I do the consent?
I think so.
Okay, let's rein this back in. All right. Consent agenda, we are going to pull items
No, no. Yeah. 3 and 7.
3, 7. You want to pull 7 completely or move it down to discussion?
We're moving them.
Well, but
I'm at just for yours first.
Aren't we moving them both? Well, we're doing 7 just to make some changes to it.
Okay.
yeah, there's no discussion.
No discussion.
Okay, so you don't want to you want to leave it in the consent?
Okay, we need to pull items 3 and 7 and we can, because there needs to be some corrections made to them. And then we can vote on items 1, 2, 4, 5, and 6 as consent. And then we can vote 3 and 7 as consent.
Okay, but you're not gonna move, okay, let's just go with number 1, and then when we get to number 3, you can decide what you want to do with that one. Okay, the first one is approval of minutes from October 15th, 2024. Regarding the approval of the minutes from that date. Are there any revisions? Has everyone had an opportunity to actually review them, and are there any revisions to that one? I've reviewed them, I didn't have any revisions. Okay, we're gonna. If there are no proposed changes, do I have a motion for action of approval?
Make a motion to accept the minutes.
All in favor?
No, we're voting. Sorry, I was,
That's fine. Do you want to pull them first and vote on all of the consent at once? Just approve all of them?
no, it's fine. I mean, we can do 1, 2, 4, 5, and 6 as a whole as consent
Yeah, as long as
agendas.
you're good with that, yeah.
And you can call
That's
for a
fine.
motion on those, and then we can call for 3 and 7 for a motion.
Okay. So we're gonna do it that way. I don't know exactly why we're pulling them. That's why I kind of wanted to do them individually, but that's fine. We can do all of them. The second one is to consider approval of certificate of appropriateness as submitted by Gabriel Campos for 101 Southwest Bernard Street. We also have item number 4. We're skipping down to certificate of appropriateness application is submitted by the city of Glen Rose for downtown square buildings. Item number 5 is consider approval of certificate of appropriateness application is submitted by city of Glen Rose for the downtown square Walnut Street and Vernon Street.
It's a stop sign.
And number 6 is consider approval of certificate of appropriateness application is submitted by the city of Glen Rose for downtown square sidewalk painting. Those are all the consent agenda items that we're gonna be looking at right now. So now I'll ask again, are there any revisions that any of you feel should be made at this time?
I don't see any.
Okay, if there are no proposed changes, I'd be looking for a motion for action of approval for the minutes from October 15th, 2024 Preservation Commission meeting. Certificate of appropriateness application is submitted by Gabriel Campos for 101 Southwest Bernard Street. Certificate of appropriateness application is submitted by Heather Young for 112 Southwest Bernard Street. Certificate of, that's the one we're skipping, sorry. All right.
I make the motion that we approve the consent agenda items 1, 2, 4, 5, and 6. At this time, I make that motion.
You go for it. Any second?
Second.
All right, all in favor? We're getting off to a bad start, folks.
Okay, so number 3 is tabled previously, it needs to be
Yes.
untabled.
That's
Yes,
it.
That's the one.
Untabled, and now it can be put on consent agenda.
That's correct.
Mhm.
Number 7 is going to be changed because it is the lights in the tree. And I had the wrong contractor. It is not the city that put them up, but Hook and Ladder Lights put them up. And the applicant and the owner are Somerville County. So those have been changed, and now they can go back on the consent agenda.
Are there any other revisions at this time to items 3 and 7? Okay, if there are no proposed changes, I'd be looking for a motion for action on approval for the certificate of appropriateness application submitted by Heather Young for 112 Southwest Bernard, item number 3, and for the lights on the trees in the downtown square, item number 7.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, do I have a second? All in favor? That is a 5-0 carry.
Okay, you ready?
Individual items for consideration.
Okay, we have a COA for 103 West Elm Street. I believe Jennifer is here, but I will describe to you the options. She first came wanting to paint the building the brown color that it is currently. There's some chipping going on and some different things, and then I spoke with her, and she is,
Not paint brown, paint cream, like the.
oh, cream, sorry.
Yes, ma'am.
Cream,
It's brown
sorry, it's the
as
cream,
it's
not the
stamped.
brown, paint over the brown with the cream. But then several of us have discussed, and I discussed with her if we could come up with a way to take the brown paint off and restore it to its original limestone, would she be open to that? And said she would definitely be open to that. And so, after doing a little bit of research and talking with Ann and some others, it appears the only way to truly take it off is a very laborious task of kind of with by hand, basically, chipping it and or sanding it off. And so I have talked to somebody that did give me a bid to do that, and so that is an option, and it's not very far off of what she was going to pay to paint. So I will now open it up if y'all have questions or.
My first question is, I remember you coming a couple months ago for the power washing. So that was unsuccessful. Did you even try it?
Yes.
Okay, and that didn't work at all. Is that what caused the chipping to begin with? Or was
That's just.
that was already there? Okay.
I mean, I don't know what you're talking about, chipping.
Well,
I mean, I've been on the roof, so.
No, on the
no, where
front of
it's
your
not
building, you have
brown
dark brown
anymore.
stone and you have
Well,
the
that's just
natural
where paint
showing underneath.
actually came off.
Right.
Where it's
Like
flaking
you
off.
can peel some places with your.
What I was asking is, was that already naturally occurring or was that from the power washing? That's what I was trying to
Oh,
clarify.
no, that was from when Greg and I had gotten up there originally, which was a year and a half ago. And we actually started kind of doing some scraping
Mhm.
and then stopped and was like, Jennifer, this is gonna take me forever and it's gonna cost you a fortune.
Okay.
And remember, I don't own the building.
Right.
So
She's
this
not the
is,
owner of the building.
but I want to be a good steward. So I'm doing my part because Michelle has been very gracious to me. But that was gonna be, I mean, Greg was just real honest, and so he said that's gonna cost a fortune.
And Melinda,
And like you said, it's time consuming, it's time.
and, you know that we talked about this as far as what the preservation briefs and all of that, and people taking paint off, and it's a labor intense, and That's one reason that, the historical commission and your local commissions and everyone really do not advocate painting brick or limestone or anything, because once it's there, it's labor intense. And this was done somewhere in the 90s.
She bought the building in 96, and I suspect the
It-
painting was done in.
Before
that.
At what point was the bottom painted that cream color and then it didn't continue to the top? Because it's brown in the Historic Resources survey from 10 years ago. So at some point it became a two-toned item.
Well, Michelle agreed to have the bottom restored
Okay.
because the covering was, and then, I mean, again, I don't own the building. So she agreed to do that bottom portion.
Mm-hmm.
The top was never really discussed, but I'm neurotic, so it bothers me because it's brown, right? It doesn't match. And from the street point of view.
Yeah.
It isn't appealing to look at. So it has always been on my heart to get that to its original state. And the reason that I chose that color on the bottom is it's the closest to like the CDB, that cream colored rock, that like white buffalo that I could get. And I didn't want crazy colors. I wanted it to be like kind of looking like original stone.
Mhm.
So at that point, I asked Greg, like, what can we do with this? And then I started thinking about power washing it because people had said that. But I talked to several professional power washers that said this paint's not coming off without a chemical. And then it occurred to me, if we kills it and then paint it cream, at least it looks like,
So you didn't try power washing it?
no, we did.
Okay.
We did, and it doesn't budge.
Have we considered,
And a low, like, I was told it had to be a low pressure because the high pressure, and if you've been on the inside of my building, you can see where the way that they built back in the day, the grout that held the rock together is not like what we know today. So it's literally crumbling. I have to vacuum it every day. It's like sand.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming that, the whole building is that rock. It's been exposed to the weather.
Mhm.
So we knew that high power could probably, so the only thing to me to make it look,
Hold on, Gabe has.
no,
a
just,
question.
because I think, like everybody else, I believe that taking the paint off would be ideal. Have we looked at maybe, talking to somebody that blasts with CO2, the dry ice, that's
I
not,
have somebody that'll take it off. by
Yeah,
hand.
so what is no, she is not looking
Okay.
at somebody's brain.
yeah.
Heather, can you explain the process?
Well, I would have to talk with them about it, but
Okay,
my
because that's my, I
understanding is
mean, what
you are
exactly
up
is?
there like by hand and you are, as she says, peeling it,
and
Getting-
using like a paint scraper.
paint scraper or, it's a hand process so that you're not destroying.
Except for we have to remember, you guys, that I can't afford this.
Well, I
Yeah,
know,
we got
well, but I have.
So if you're talking
I
about
thought you just said it was the same price as
I
your
have
paint.
somebody that will do
Well, I
it
don't know
for
what
just
she's
a little
talking
bit
about.
more than that, and then there's a new ordinance with the city that you can give money for, it's not called a facade grant yet, but let's just say it's something like that. But I talked to Troy and I said, hey, if she would contribute some, would the city contribute some to restoring this? And he said, yes. So we just need to figure out what that process is.
Right now, we have changed from, kind of the old format of the tax incentive program is, to more of a, I don't know exactly what they're calling it, but it's kind of a tax, it's kind of a
The
reimbursement, match for improvements and maintenance to your property. The city has approved it. It is already in the ordinance from July 2024. We just don't have exactly how that rolls out and what that looks like. We don't have an application or anything like that.
Great.
So you'd be our first test.
Yes.
And so it goes up to a certain amount. So for every dollar you spend up to, I don't know what it is, a couple $1,000s, I think.
So if she were going to spend $600 to have it painted, but we could get it done correctly and the city matched 50%, let's just say even cost $1,200. Then she comes out ahead because her store now looks like you would really let it.
But now what is your feeling about that being natural stone and being painted the cream color below?
I mean, ideally, the original stone would look great. I am okay with that. I just needed to problem solve the bottom because it was decaying. So really it was an issue of safety and Michelle agreed. And it is her building, and I know from this point forward, I know she trusts me to be a good steward of it. And so I know that she wouldn't mind, and I'm okay with doing my part because of the grace she's shown me, so.
So I remember when you came and, I know that you personally were up there because I stopped you and I went, is it coming off? And you were like, no.
Yeah.
And she did power wash it. She did have somebody come in and power wash the top portion. She worked hard on trying to get this off in every aspect. And, so every source that I've read, everything I've read, it has to be done by hand or low grade power washing, which it did not work because she tried it. A lot of the stuff says you can only use, you have to know what kind of paint you have. You have to know what kind of paint this was originally. And we know it's limestone underneath it, but I mean, you have to know what.
Well,
so-
you can see the stone on the side.
before you start
It's
painting,
natural.
before you start getting a chemical to try to take it off. So, I
I
mean,
think a chemical's gonna be difficult too, because you have buildings on both sides, you have the
Yes.
building underneath, you're up on top of it, like that is gonna be a major.
well, that's all I was saying, because,
Yeah.
and also,
So I think,
Are you open to trying that as the first step and then
Yeah, I'll
painting
get
as
up
a
there and
second option?
I think it'd be a nice test of the city's new program.
Well,
and we
that's-
need to figure
that's what
out,
I'm
like,
thinking
how
is
we
that-
do it,
yeah,
and then,
And once other building owners see you out there doing that and the city, you
Right.
know, participating, it's actually really great outreach.
no, there's all kinds, there's preservation brief 38 and number 6, both tell us how to
Okay.
take it off and,
And I will tell you, I also reached out on your behalf to people I know to try
I
and
remember you
help
said
you.
you knew.
And most, I talked to a lot of masons who work with stone
Sure.
and they were like, yeah, you're not getting that off. It's gonna be a
And there must have
process,
been-
so.
There's some other colors under that brown. And I don't know if there's photographs back like when it was Linda's restaurant, but there's some green on that and it's not mold.
Mhm.
It looks like paint, so I don't know if there was more like, I mean, maybe Michelle was covering up green. I'm not really sure. It's not everywhere and it's not solid. So, I mean, it may, you know, after we scrape and scrape, there might be some extra stuff. I'm really not sure. Under that brown.
And I think
That
that's
was
what you
my
have to do, I mean,
concern.
you have to have somebody who's gonna come in and
This looks
try
like
a
a
test, you know, they always try a test patch, you know?
I
To
know,
see how
and
it's gonna
You
work.
can see like when you look up that little test patch, but, so, I mean, but I think it's a great idea to get it back to its original state. It's
So-
ideal, that's ideal.
If you're open to that, however, I mean, I would encourage you to try that route if it's not going to damage the stone. I mean, that's obviously, we don't want the building to start crumbling and
So
falling
Heather,
apart,
are we-
but
The people that are willing to do this, are they aware of what they're working with? That
Yes.
it's very old and
you already looked at it.
excellent,
Yes.
okay,
So can
so then
we,
they would know.
but you are allowed to paint it. That's the thing.
that's what I was
If
gonna say.
I want you to know your options here, we wouldn't, I wouldn't vote for you to be able to paint the sides where it's still native stone, but the front, it
Oh,
is
yeah.
already painted. And as far as any jurisdiction that we have, we would have to allow. part of it.
Well, so I have been,
Just so you are aware.
encouraged to get a sign, and it seems that that needs to be immediate. So on Saturday, when I was
It
approached,
doesn't.
It doesn't.
I said, number one, the sign that I want, which I was told I probably not gonna get, which is fine, or something,
You're
it's
not
not gonna
anything
show
to
up
do
on
on
We've
brown.
already approved that sign.
It's not gonna show up on brown, right? Black and white, and it's not gonna show up on the brown. So that had always been my plan, was to get it to a state.
It will show up and it will look great.
So I was encouraged and told on Saturday to go ahead and paint it.
Let's, discuss the sign offline.
yeah, it's not on the agenda.
It's not on the agenda, plus
Oh, I
that's
see. I'm
not
sorry.
all the full truth.
So,
I don't want people having their arms twisted to. That's not even what we're talking about. So can we approve, like, if she's comfortable with us applying for possible help to restore it to the original stone. Can we approve that? And if that doesn't work, approve the paint so that she doesn't have to come back? That's
I
my
would like,
question.
I would also, I was going to actually make that recommendation as well. I don't want you to have to come back. You've been so patient, Jennifer. And so I know you've tried and, I would really like to try the city's program and see the city get out there and support our business owners, and try this program first. Also, just to see if it's even possible, right? Like, let's make this.
To actually scrape the paint off.
Why,
Okay.
yeah, make
So
it a
what you're
test
saying, the
case.
city's offer is possible.
Yes.
As far as I understand,
Okay.
reading the ordinance, it is possible. But I would also like to give you a second option of painting. So we'd need to make a motion towards that direction, unless there's any further discussion that people would like to.
Are there any considerations to painting stone, that maybe is there a preservation approved type paint for stone that could be removed easily later?
It's a great,
Paint,
excellent question.
paint, whether it's on brick or whether it's on stone, is a force to be reckoned with once it's put there. I mean, that's just,
Yeah,
so there are different paint types to use on it, and we have some briefs from the National Park Service that wrote them. They kind of tell you, but all of them tell you not to paint them, and it tells you how to take all the, what we can get off with.
Y'all, I don't think that's any kind of fancy thing.
We're thinking about it in the future. We're talking about.
I know, that's what I'm
right,
saying, it's ideal.
it's already on top of that
Right
other
now,
paint,
this
so
is-
I don't know that, is it worth considering, are we compounding the issue for later?
We are,
But-
but she's allowed to do it.
Right, no, I'm not saying she's not, I'm just saying, is there something we can do now
Yeah.
to make later easier?
Well, here's the only thing, I like Melinda says, I would love for her to try to get it off of there. And if that does not work, painting it again is an option. But let's look at getting a better quality of paint to put back up there.
Yes,
That would.
Yeah.
Nothing's ideal for brick or stone. I mean, that's just the bottom line, but a better quality than might have been used.
Right,
well, so then that means that what I have that was used on the bottom, which would match, might not be in line with what you're discussing, with what you're saying.
Well, we'll see.
It was an improved color on the little swatch, but I'm sure that Greg got the paint at, I think Home Depot or something like that.
Well, that doesn't mean it's not a good quality.
Yeah, that's the, yeah.
Oh, I see.
No, that doesn't mean it's, because those places sell quality
Well,
brands.
and he would have bought something that would withstand the elements, but it might not be like what you're saying, it might
Right.
not be.
So I think we're just trying to think of like something that's like not going to create more chipping and
Oh,
more,
definitely. No, I
so
do.
that
I'm
we're not
totally
just
understanding
compounding
what
the
you're
problem.
saying.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah, and that's what I'm
I
saying,
do,
that
but the bottom's already
right.
the bottom is already what?
done,
Oh, done.
But at least that part is kind of shaded and protected from the
Yes, for sure.
elements
for
a
sure.
lot.
So I have no problem, honestly, with her trying to get it off.
Okay.
Using the new program that we have for tax incentives, but that's for the,
We would have, yeah,
We're
it
gonna
has
have
to get
I'm gonna have
approved
to figure out
first.
how to, how to
because
access that.
because that's usually for the property owner for the building.
Right.
And, I have no problem with her painting it should all else fail.
Right.
So on that statement that Ann just made, has the ultimate decision on,
City council.
no, as far
Oh.
as enough effort was put
Right,
into?
all effort was put in,
Right,
and now you
so
can
that's,
Oh, I think that has to be their judgment.
I mean,
Because they're just in there
She's
struggling and
fixing-
struggling.
no, I get it, but, I guess if we get the professionals in it, they're like, yeah,
you're hiring somebody to do it, if I'm not
We get a look,
mistaken.
Right, we're hiring somebody to do it, and we get a little look at how they're gonna do it and what they achieve, and
And there comes a point where he
they're like,
goes,
yes, this is doable, or no, it's not
Yeah.
doable.
Right.
I mean, I think
Yeah.
So,
Who is hiring? So the city would hire the company?
I'm not sure
City?
yet.
Okay.
We're gonna have to,
So y'all will just help me
Figure
know
that out,
and I'll
yes.
just show up
we're
every
gonna have
day.
to figure out how this is gonna
Okay.
work, yes.
we're,
Okay,
we're gonna give maybe, because I can't speak for everyone else, options and permission, and then Heather's gonna oversee it. How's that?
well, sure.
So in the motion, whoever's gonna make that motion, just add that continued coordination will occur between HPO and the city to execute the program. Any other discussion on this one? Got anything, Amber? Mm-mm. Would anybody like to make a motion? All right,
I can't,
I'm gonna put my glasses on.
you can.
Regarding consideration and possible action regarding the certificate of appropriateness application as submitted by Jennifer Coward for 103 West Elm. I motion for the first option to be working with the city to take advantage of the new reimbursable program for property owners for maintenance and repair of buildings and improvements, and continued coordination to occur with the city, the business owner, the property owner, and our HPO to initiate that program and execute it. That program will be to remove the paint by hand, hiring a contractor that HPO is going to recommend to the business owner. If that fails, the second option will be to paint the stone front, street facing facade the same color as the lower half of the building. No intact original stone that is untreated or unpainted will be painted, meaning the sides
Sounds-
that are visible from the street.
I second that motion.
And seconds. All in favor? 5-0 carries. I go slowly up on
That's
that.
How you doing?
Okay,
I knew there was gonna be a lot on that one.
Thank you.
okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate you guys.
Next on our agenda is discussion of task force. I don't know if we have any updates.
All right, guys, so we've had some discussion about the task forces. Just to remind everybody, let's take a look at, the top 3 items that we were tasked with by city council. I don't know if this was, I think this actually was in particular order. Process improvement and simplification. The second one was to improve property owner communication. These two obviously really overlap. And the third one was to update the Glen Rose walking tour. Okay, so our task forces. For the improve property owner and communication, that's item number 2. That was Scott, Ember, and Karen. I did kind of jump in on that and take over some of those tasks. And I worked with Ann really closely on that. So Heather prepared the initial outreach letter we're gonna send it to property owners as well as the tenants of the building. That letter, I've been just revising and editing a little bit, and we'll have out for review if anybody else would like to see it besides Heather and Ann. I just wanted to add a little more clarification there. That letter also includes the new ordinance that we were just talking to Jennifer about, with the, program that the city is offering. And it also includes the new ordinance, language for the ordinary maintenance. It also is going to include, kind of a dossier of their properties. So if they have a historic resources survey, or if they're part of the National Register, or if they have a landmark, any kind of information that we have on file can be sent to them in a packet. That also gives us the opportunity, as we're going down the list, to go, hey, who do we not have a packet for? Who needs to have some paperwork done on their property? Anne has graciously printed out all of that, with the exception of the letter and the ordinances that are sitting on my desktop right now, open. And is going to help me stuff all of those packets.
I did, I probably went a little,
I know, she's already stuffed them. We need to put my letter in there.
no, I hadn't stuffed them yet.
Oh,
But I went a
Go
little
for it.
further than, because I did a cover sheet to the historic resource survey and anything, so it tells them what the property was. It gives them their description of their legal description. I put the current designations, because we talked about that, whether they're a city landmark, whether they're part of the overlay district, or if they were in the historic places district. I got a little folder to put it in. I already have the mailing envelopes. The folders and the mailing envelopes I had at home, and they can go. And then I have done a label for every envelope as well as every packet cover, so they have that. I get a little, and then you asked me to kind of make a registry of, so that we would have the owner's address and the tenant's address. And I do have that registry. And when I finish it, I'm gonna send it to Melinda, because Melinda has a stabler program than with Excel, that she says people can look at and not like if I make a change to Excel, it changes the whole. I may have moved.
We'll put it in access database.
I may have moved the owner to a different property and not realized it, and then it messes it up. So she's gonna do that. I did all of that at that request, and
And the goal of this is for property owners and tenants to be aware of the fact that they are actually in a historic property. That's number one. What type of historic property is? It might have multiple levels of status, you know, and to also just engage them. We really want them to have the knowledge, but also reach out to us for questions that they have. And we want to keep that communication open. So annually they will get an update to that, but also Scott has been gracious enough to offer his place of business to do a workshop for all of these tenants and owners. And that will be just a super brief presentation on historic preservation, and give them the opportunity to come meet HPC, ask questions, and get involved at that time. I think that's a really good opportunity. And then JC is not here, but he and I have also talked about doing a speaker series. We have a lot of really wonderful, knowledgeable people in this town who know the history. Mary did her thesis on the petrified wood, which is a really cool topic that she could come and talk on. So we need to reach out to some of these people and maybe do, you know, a speaker series twice a year would be nice, just for the entire community, not just the property owners, but to get everybody engaged in preservation. The other thing on that list, what else do we have? I think here. I mean, I'm just trying to think what other people on that list are doing that are not here. I think that's probably pretty good for the property owner communication. That's basically where we're at with everything right now.
we'll have a stuffing party whenever anybody wants to help.
I'm ready to roll this weekend. I'm ready to get this done. That was kind of everything that was the synopsis of what subtask A was essentially. I have a couple different formats of this, that's why I'm kind of skipping around here a little bit. The one thing that was something that came up and we just really aren't sure how to roll this out is that the city would like all of this information to be on the deeds. And
Sorry.
That's,
and Scott has had some conversations with realtors. I know that Heather has some information, so that is something that task force needs to engage the city with and see how that can be something that we can coordinate with them. That's not saying you need to go physically put it on the deed, but we have the list of what type of property they are. And so some type of communication needs to be had with the city from your task force to see if that's feasible, how that's feasible, and how we can help them accomplish that. And that is Scott, Ember, and Karen, to remind you guys. Do you guys have any other updates on your task force? I really encourage you guys to talk to each other. You don't need any direction from anybody else. You guys, that's your task force. You're not a quorum when you're just three of you. Also, if you do have a fourth person that you want to bring in, you just set it up like a workshop.
I just have one question. The COA that we have right now, it's great. I'm not asking, there's nothing. Do we have,
That's up.
oh, excuse me. I just wanted to,
That's up for the next one though. We're gonna get to that one.
okay, sorry. I thought it was communication.
I think that's about it.
That's it with task
Okay.
force updates?
Now we're gonna jump, no, that's just on that task.
Oh, okay.
Okay, now we're jumping to Ann.
Now you're up.
The next one up was number 1, process improvement and simplification. So that one we have done actually a lot of good work on. We don't have a technical task force for that one. So I guess I'm taking a lead on that one a little bit. And Heather has gotten everything updated on the website, the current website. I met with Veronica and we had a really good discussion on what we would like to see on our new website. And we're kind of feeding some information to her that way. Dee also met with us downtown and had some really good ideas on how the COAs can be put online and make it really, really user friendly. So it'd be, do I own a historic property? Yes or no, and it kind of, you just keep clicking through until you get through all the answers. Is this ordinary routine maintenance? And you can look at the definition. If maybe it is, maybe it's not, and you keep clicking until you get to the COA. You fill it out, and then you just hit submit, and it goes straight to Heather. And yeah,
My only question, what my question was going to be is, I would like a COA that is filled out and has sample across it. So when we do this packet, they have a complete COA of how it should be filled out, sample. That's why I was asking if we had it where I could get it, I could do it and then print the copies for this. That was my question.
I'll be really, really honest here. I don't think I've ever seen a COA come across my desk that is the way that I want it to be.
Maybe you should fill one in.
I know.
I mean, I
But you have to think though, that's because most cities have city HPOs that are paid or a staff position.
yeah, but I tell you what, I'm gonna give kudos to Gabriel down there. Mr. Gabe, your COA looked really good because it had every spot was filled. I mean, it was filled in and typed in, and it had information where we didn't have to go and look for.
But if we give them a sample, then it makes Heather's job a lot easier.
That's what I was
because
saying.
She doesn't have to do the legwork because she doesn't have time to do it.
Right, that's why I was saying if we had one, we could.
But is that too much information in the packet? Are we
No.
going overboard?
Nope.
I'm saying as a business owner, like, Would you
Well, I
like
have
to
a
see a
business,
sample
yes.
COA?
I don't think there's ever too much
I have a,
information.
I mean, what's the worst thing that happens?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Heather has a business. I have one on the square. Gabe, we all have businesses on the square and all. And so
Okay.
if I get a sample, if you'll send it to me, I'll fill sample out and Melinda can go back and make sure it's
So you
got all of
wanna
it.
blame-
Yes,
Yeah, I know.
online where we can just type it all up.
No, I know.
Okay,
No, I
so,
have to create a whole new one.
I wish.
well, see, because the one we have now, it's
Can we
great.
not get into the weeds though on this, maybe? I feel like we're
I'm-
gonna be here all night.
Okay, we'll get in the weeds later.
Yeah.
Okay?
All
But
we
we
have
just know
right
that
now,
needs to be
all we
done.
have right now is a PDF.
And it's
So
not a
it's not-
fillable PDF,
it's
but
not
if
a
you send it to me, I will
fillable
make it. I will
Yeah.
make it editable.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Love that.
Okay, so we'll weed later.
Yeah.
Well, we,
Okay, sorry. There it goes
Uh,
again. I'm telling you, I'll squirrel it.
And because this task force was not officially set, this is going to now be Heather, Ann, and Melinda. Because we've already basically been doing it, so, okay. Trying to think if there's anything else on that specific one. All right, I think we're gonna jump down to number 3, and that one is the update the Glen Rose walking tour. Initially, the city had wanted to do this after the historic resources survey was done. But we just went ahead and moved forward because that could be another year especially if we have to apply for a CLG grant.
Yeah.
But I have been talking to Dr. Baker. He's now retired from Tarleton, so he's not really interested in doing it. But Dr. Lyles, who's now the head of the department, is interested in doing it. And we're talking about that. So even if we were to apply for a CLG grant, get her on board, get the students on board, this wouldn't be till 2026 because the grant period has already closed if we go for that particular grant. Then now there are other options, but again, a lot of them are due in February and March, and I just don't think we're gonna meet that deadline. So I say we move forward with the walking tour, and Ann can talk to you about where she's at with that. And we just come back to the historic resources survey when we have the funding to do so.
Well, this is how, back in July, we started it. I got permission because the Somerville County Historical Commission and the CVB, the Glen Rose Somerville County CVB back in 2009, that's just when, and I've referenced it with a date so that you know how far. Ken Fry drew all the little pictures that went on that. He was the artist. I called Mr. Fry, got permission from him to use his artwork, to recreate, to use his artwork as is and create it. I then gave it to somebody because there was no file. We had to have it scanned in and rebuilt. I understand Gabe has kind of looked at it and said there are misspelled words, and a lot of it was just fed over as is and hasn't been proofed or anything. JC was gonna go Tuesday to get pictures. There's no one at the Historical Commission on Tuesday at the Heritage Library, so he was leaving town. I went on Thursday. I took a whole bunch of new pictures to drop in that have to be cleared up. We're just back to getting with the graphic person who's got it, fix the spelling, and drop pictures in. That's kind of where we are with that. And I didn't proof any of it after she put it all in there, and I was just grateful that we got it all into something that we could start working with. And when she finishes it, we'll have a digital copy, and then we'll send it for print, and then we'll own the digital copy at that time. So we'll have it, and we can update it and whatever at that time.
So that task force, just to remind you, is Ann, JC, and Gabe. Again, I really, really encourage you guys to communicate with each other. JC and I have talked a lot about brainstorming different ideas for the walking tour and how do we make this applicable to a wider audience. So, right, because it's paper, right? It's a fold out pamphlet. Not everyone's gonna like that format. So a
Everyone's
couple.
gotta know where to get it either.
Right, well, so there's a lot of different ways. We could, like we were talking about, like doing those speaker presentations.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
could get somebody to do a docent-led tour a couple times a year. That would be fun.
The QR codes that are on the
Yeah.
buildings.
Yeah.
The company was sold who was doing that.
That's what it was.
And that's why they no longer work, but we can put the QR codes back into
Yeah.
operation that are on the building, which would help a lot of folks too. So I did go back and read the minutes and figure out why they were defunct, and it's because the company sold.
Yeah, so that's a really, really good outlet because a lot of people like their apps and like their phones. Another option is something that my company personally does to, outreach for archaeology and built environment. They'll do like a walking tour that's virtual. So you can actually like either scan the QR codes or you can scan markers and you can actually see what things look like. You can see the building throughout history. If you're at a Native American village site, you can see what it looked like at one time. So there's a lot of options. That obviously is a little more costly, but it is something that we could work towards and say, we'd really love to see this in 2 years or something. So there's a lot of different options where we can target a lot of different audiences. Another one was a ghost tour. Granbury does ghost tours. Galveston does them. I've done them in Scotland, London. They do them all over the world and they're fun. So I think there's a lot of different types of tours that we could really target people. So I think that's kind of where we're at with the walking tour. And not overlap with the historic resources survey that we're working on. Again, I don't see that happening until 2026. If I somehow find some wide break in my schedule, in my life, I might do it, but we'll see. Okay, these are things that were not completely listed as task force, but this is other things that we are working on. Karen and I are working on what was item number 4 with Anne, that is to update the design guidelines. We are working on that. The other thing is the facade improvement program. That's something that the city administrator asked HPO to look into. And that kind of overlaps with that reimbursable program that we're doing. So there's other cities that we've looked at that have actual, like, here's the application and here's how you submit it. And here's, if they have deadlines or whatever. And it's really, really nice. So that's something we would like to present to city council and get their approval on so that program that they have put into the ordinance actually becomes super functional and accessible for owners. I did also get some facade improvement grant examples from Kelly Little. She sent me probably about 10 different cities that did them last year, so we can look to those and maybe get some guidance or some ideas about going for larger grant programs. The other grant program that we're looking into is for the lane building. We don't have any project information on that yet or any kind of design plans, but city council did task us with that at the last council meeting last week. They just want to know what's out there, if anything's applicable. And so we have 60 days to look into that for them.
But we can't fulfill that if they don't give us some information. Are you?
Correct. I have asked for information and I don't think it's available. This is my understanding. So, and the reason for that is that every grant has a specific parameters for what you're applying for. So we need to know exactly what it is that the ask is before we start kind of circling the drain and spending time looking at grants that aren't going to be applicable for that particular building or this particular activity. So we really need to kind of start with what's the ask before we know what kind of grants to target. So that was just kind of in a holding pattern right now. And the other thing Anne touched on is that Anne is creating that database. Property owners, tenants, what's their status, whether or not they've ever been in the tax programs. She's basically taking the list that Jody keeps and revamping it to fit our needs. That will go into a master database at some point. And I guess I kept calling it the database, but I guess it's really like an archives. So I'm trying to create a file folder system with all of these documents so that they live at the city, and not just on our computers. So I'm trying to corral all of the different reference material. Like right now I'm building a reference library for all of the books, articles, whatever that pertain to the city of Glen Rose or Somerville County or the families of Glen Rose. And so I'm making that kind of library archive right now. And everything, all the paper documents, all of the history of the tax incentive programs and just all of that, so that everything's a nice, complete HPC packet. So the next people walking in will know where to go and what to look for.
The Heritage Library, which is at the county library, which is where I went, has
We have a lot.
a lot about all the families here. They've done an excellent job because they used to be in the 100 Northeast Bernard building, and now they're at the library, and they have lots and lots and lots. And that's where when I went to get better pictures to put in there, and even different pictures than what were on there. It's really great. There, you just go over there, you pull a year or a family name or a section, and you can it's a great heritage library and genealogy library. So that's a great source for folks to go and look about their buildings.
I think that's probably it.
Okay. Moving on, number 10. I'm just bringing information that I was contacted by a potential new owner of, I call it Outlaw Station, also known as Sycamore Grove, that they are going to be buying the building. Jody told me that she believes they close December 19th. So in 2 days, we will know if it has a new owner. That new owner would love our help in applying for this to be a registered state historic landmark. And so I think I'm gonna give it 2 days and then call him and make sure they've bought the building and then kind of go from there. So I just wanted you guys to know that that is out there. And they will be restoring it. He wants to restore it to its 1920s glory, he says.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I know.
Well, it's an undertaking,
It is
Oh.
an-
but the thing is that with the I can tell you, if you have a labor of love for it, you will succeed at
It's
it.
also gonna sit on the new bypass. So when that bypass is built, it's gonna sit right there. So it might not be a bad investment.
No, yeah,
Oh,
and
it's just
He's done other
Pass.
buildings too.
Okay, so, yeah, he's
He knows
an
what he's
architect. He
getting
knows,
into.
yeah, he knows what he's getting into. So
but it's a
I do
labor
think
of
he's
love.
serious, yes.
It's a labor of love.
I think it'd be fabulous.
Yeah,
that'd be great.
yeah. And what'll be really great when he does it is the troughs are there, but behind the troughs are behind that, all those trees that you're looking at is the sheds and the water houses and there's buildings behind that are covered up, the well houses there. I mean, it's kind of cool.
He's saying he's finding all kinds of stuff as he's kind
Oh,
of
what's that?
on the property and
So is he getting the whole 17? Oh, okay.
he commented about,
He's buying all the acreage. I haven't talked to him about that.
Oh, that's even better. Then that means sorry. I'm, okay, bye.
That's just information. That is all.
Having no further business before the board, this meeting is adjourned at, let's see,
6:24.
6:24
This guy.
PM. I mean, my gavel.
Oh, it's down here with me. No, it's not. It went to, Emperor's got it. Look in the drawers.
I like the gavel.
And maybe one more.